Okay, we're here with Bruce Koon from KQED Radio in San Francisco.
Correct.
You touched a little bit on the panel about the system of checks and balances being gone in journalism and legacy newsrooms. Can you expand on that just a little bit?
Well, I mean, sure. I mean, two things have occurred. One is just the economic cratering of what supported traditional newsrooms, and especially newspapers in particular. So that has created a situation where we don't have as many copy editors, you don't just have the resources. But also the whole news consumption world has changed. It's no longer appointment driven, it's no longer single products. Now, news consumers are in a continuous there's a continuous news flow. Thanks to applications, mobile devices, the internet, and so news consumers can decide when do I go in to consume what I want to, and because of that, because it's a constant flow, it's an ongoing process of having to check facts as they develop. There's not a finished product necessarily, so it's a much more flexible environment in which we almost have to check our facts, put in context on the go.
What role have social media played in this?
Well, social media is a huge part of it because, as we said now, once upon a time you consumed your news and maybe you talked to your neighbor, but today, thanks to social media, people are not only digesting news, but they're sharing the news, they're discussing the news, and they're forwarding and redistributing news information or whatever they hear. So consequently, the ability for a misfact or the ability for incomplete information to be distributed widely is just so powerful.
Do you feel that news consumers are a little bit more forgiving on, say, Twitter, for instance, of news that's developing, and you may get a fact wrong, and then you go back and correct it? Has that process changed? Whereas consumers of legacy media are not forgiving of any fact error.
Well, part of it's a cycle, an evolution. I mean, most Twitter users, because it's a new technology, it's a new platform, most of the users are going to tend to be pioneers or leading edge individuals. So because of that, they're probably bringing a self-awareness of the medium themselves. So they probably know to be more skeptical, or they know how to triangulate information. The issue is when it becomes mainstream. And then when individuals who maybe would not bring that same level of scrutiny with them are just saying, oh, well, I heard it on Twitter, it must be true. So that's when
Gabrielle Giffords has been killed instead of
exactly,
shot. Yeah.
Exactly.
What's your best, I know you're with a radio station, but what's your best advice for like a TV station where they still have to depend on the appointment viewing, 5, 6, and 10 morning show? How can they best adapt to these new times?
Well, I think, first of all, appointment viewing is not going to go away. At least I think it has its power and its strength, and especially in I know for us at radio, our audience is still growing because of the values and strengths of a broadcast medium. Each medium has their own strength, but for a news organization such as TV, your relationship with the audience doesn't end just because your appointment time in the newscast has ended on the air. So what's happening behind the scene, probably through your website, through your mobile, is your ongoing relationship with that audience through the digital outlets.
And how best do you describe the need for more employees to actually handle that? Newsrooms a lot of times don't have somebody to monitor Twitter feeds or, monitor mobile apps or, what's coming in from consumers.
Well, I mean, first of all, a lot of this is happening during, the perfect storm of a bad economy, an economic model disappearing. So the staffing of the new newsroom in the future, I think there's a recognition that you're right. You can't piggyback on it. There's going to be new roles in the newsroom. There'll have to be an economic model that's going to support those kind of employees. So I think you'll see growth at one time as soon as we can get past this economic crisis and as the new business model takes hold.
Have you seen an economic model like that that's working somewhere?
Well, well, what I've seen is the recognition that as you pointed out, that wait a minute, maybe it's just as important to have a social coordinator as that other reporter. I mean, look, newsrooms have always been a balance of budgets and choices, and so part of it is maybe a little scaling back on the range. You see less. We're trying covering it all. Maybe we're more limited in our scope of what our region is.
And niche programming.
Niche programming, and the notion of collaboration and partnerships that I talked about a little too. That do I need to cover that item if every general news organization is covering it? So those kind of choices, I think, will guide what the newsroom looks like.